This Mondraker is the complete opposite of just about every bike I've ridden in the last, I don't know, 10 years or so. I've really enjoyed it, and it's made me push my limits in some ways that I kind of need to, but I also get nervous. So let's break it down a little bit. To bring you all up to speed, thus far I've posted 2 prior videos with this Mondraker Super Foxy R. I am 5 foot 8 inches tall, or 174 centimeters, and I live in a fully sized medium world. Every bike I ride is medium, with the Super Foxy being no exception. The Super Foxy is a unique bike sporting some very progressive geometry. Specifically, it has a very long reach and wheelbase. Somehow, this statement that it has a long reach and wheelbase has proven to be very controversial to many of you in the comments down below. Thanks to your comments claiming it incorrect to call this bike long, I did a bit of a geometry deep dive. There are indeed multiple typos on Mondraker's own website reporting the geometry of the Super Foxy, but it appears the actual reach is 470 millimeters and the actual wheelbase is 1245. Yes, there are another half dozen or so bikes with a similarly long reach and wheelbase, but very, very few are notably longer. I plugged the supposed numbers into 2 online calculators just to check for myself, and it appears that yes, with a 470 reach, the bike has about a 1245 millimeter wheelbase. Before we dive into the riding and feel of the bike, let's debunk the whole long controversy. First up, the Ritmo that I've ridden the last 4 years has a 460 mil reach, but the wheelbase is only 1219, much shorter than the Mondraker. My favorite bike of all time, the Rocky Mountain Altitude, is significantly shorter with a 1218 wheelbase and a tidy 449 reach. The Specialized Enduro in size S3 features a 464 reach and a 1246 wheelbase, so shorter in reach, but a little bit longer in wheelbase due to that slacker head angle. That's actually a common theme here, in that a lot of newer bikes are between 63 and 64 degrees in head angle, which gives them a pretty long wheelbase. Multiple people mention the new Norco range. Well, the range is a 20 millimeter shorter reach. When coupled with a much slacker head angle, it does result in the same wheelbase. However, slackening the Mondraker another degree and a half to match the range would mean a huge 1260 wheelbase. That makes it comparable to the Canyon Strive. The massive Canyon Strive has a 5 millimeter longer reach, though with a 2 degree slacker head angle. That stretches the wheelbase out to a full 1262. Yes, this is one of only a few bikes that are actually longer than the Mondraker, but it doesn't mean the Super Foxy is not a long bike. Finally, the Commencal Meta AM features the same reach of 470, though also has a slacker head angle, and the wheelbase resultingly is 1258, same as the Mondraker would be if it had an angle set. If you do your homework, you'll see that it is 100% valid to call the Super Foxy a long bike. The other day, I went ahead and swapped out a lot of the stock parts into parts that I prefer to ride. Few small swap outs real quick. Over the last few years, I've narrowed down my bikes to generally use the same cockpits, the same drivetrains, the same wheels, mostly the same parts. Now, the biggest change between bike to bike to bike is usually the frame. Once in a while, I end up with a different fork as well, different shock, whatever. But this way, I get to know the bones of the bike, the things that if you buy a bike, you don't end up changing down the road. At this point, I am supported by a couple of these companies, which I'm stoked on because I really like their stuff. It also helps me make these videos happen. So before we get into the nitty gritty, big thanks to Jensen USA. Jensen sponsored this video and made it happen. Jensen's also a retailer for Mondraker here in the United States. And I've got a link in the description below over to the Jensen USA website where you can read all about the Super Foxy. Anything you purchase from Jensen will also help support my channel. That's a big part of how we make these videos happen. And Jensen is indeed a really good online resource for getting just about anything you might need to go mountain biking. I'm also supported by P&W Components. They make the controls, handlebar, stem, grips, dropper, seat post, remote that I use on all my bikes. I'm also sponsored by Industry 9. Industry 9 makes fantastic wheels and hubs, and they make almost everything in-house in Asheville, North Carolina. I do talk about Shimano parts a little bit in this video. I was supported by Shimano for quite a while, and then the bike boom happened with COVID and we couldn't get parts, so Shimano and I weren't really sure if we could do a sponsorship or whatever. It's looking like we're going to continue things, but there's nothing formal at the moment with Shimano. I just want to let you know that I did have a relationship with Shimano, and I might again in the future. Right now, it's kind of gray area limbo, and whatever, it's fine. If I was buying parts, I would buy just about all this same stuff because it's solid. And while none of it's cheap, none of it's also the most expensive. The prices are very fair for what you get. Let's grab the bike and start getting into this. First up, I've got a new wheel set here I'm going to throw on this thing. Now, this bike came with these DT Swiss wheels. There is absolutely nothing wrong with the stock DT Swiss wheels. DT Swiss makes a wonderful product. However, the stock free hub mechanism is very low engagement. 1, 2, 3, 18. So I swapped that off for the Industry 9 Endura S wheel set, which has the top of the line Hydra hub. It's made in Asheville, North Carolina, 690 points of engagement. That was a huge upgrade. They're also using the Industry 9 aluminum rims, 30.5mm inner width. I really like that wheel set, it's top notch. Nice. They're quite light. I'm impressed with the weight. I think the ride quality is going to be really good with using the steel spokes too. Kept the stock tires, the downhill casing, max grip, Maxxis tires front and rear. Those things were killer. These tires are DH casing, so they're a little bit harder to work with than like a EXO or trail case or a lightweight casing. But they also don't go flat like the other tires will. And then I also swapped on a Shimano drivetrain and Shimano brakes. The brakes in particular have been a struggle. They have plenty of power, but the modulation is not there. I think it's the stock brake pads. I think they're organic. I think we need to go over to some metal sintered pads. I don't know. I have Shimano brakes and the rest of my bikes, and I really like them. And I've been kind of struggling with these SRAM brakes, and I want to do more wheelies. Yeah, I threw some spare Shimano brakes on there, and man, I felt a lot more comfortable with my 4-piston XT brakes with metallic pads front and rear. World of improvement for me over the stock codes. This video is like a story of Jeff's entire motorcycle collection. Sorry about that, guys, but there's reasons for both motos, both days. So I just got a long distance touring motorcycle and I wanted to try out the bike rack, so I threw the Mondraker on the rack. The Mondraker is pretty much the exact opposite of my other bikes. It's much bigger. So I wanted to make sure that would fit on the moto rack, and lo and behold, it did. And the Mondraker is not super heavy, so it was okay to ride with that thing. But we went and checked out a trail that I haven't really filmed on a whole lot recently, but I thought it would be cool for the Mondraker because it likes to go fast. Top of that trail, there's some like natural undulations and whoops, and you can kind of gap them if you're really feeling feisty. And the Mondraker, it felt great for that kind of stuff. There's a pretty fast G out. The bike just feels so stable in those faster, bigger hit situations. That's like what the bike was made for. You can still get away with like some more technical jump to lannual things. And there's one route to like rocky thing that it's kind of a hard lannual, but I ended up pulling it off on the Mondraker a couple of times, which was pretty cool. Bike feels good through the turns. There's my all-time favorite lannual, and I kind of struggled with it for some reason, and I did it like casually riding the same trail with the SRAM brakes a few weeks ago, so go figure. And I wanted to go out with a bang on this Mondraker and take it someplace that really deserved a bike of this caliber. Closer to home, I've been riding our local trails, which are super fun, but they're not smashy, fast, big hit trails. They're a little bit more tight and technical and woodsy, more traditional, you could say. So I wanted to bring this bike somewhere more bike parky, more big hit, faster. So we came out here in the mountains. Not that far from home, but I don't come out here much. This is my 3rd time ever riding here. And yeah, I think this is a great bike for this spot. Now, the thing is, we did a lot of descending and we didn't want to have to pedal up. We wanted to have some energy to film a lot on the way down. We didn't want to drag someone to help shuttle us and then have them stand around while we shot video all day. So I grabbed my $900 special, this little DRZ 400 that you saw part of in the Ibis Ripley AF video. Long story there, the engine is from the Ripley AF videos motorcycle. The rest of the motorcycle was 900 bucks here in Washington. Let me know in the comments if you want to hear the actual story of this Franken bike I'm sitting on. It's kind of complicated. So we cruised out here and stashed the moto, bottom of the hill, locked it to a tree, threw a cover over it, hoping it doesn't get shot or stolen or messed with. It sounds like the Civil War down here. It's a full-on battlefield at the bottom of the gully. They stop as soon as Logan turns the camera. So we drove up to do our shuttle, and what we didn't know is like, it's been raining a lot. We've had an extra month and a half of winter up here, and it's almost June. And it was snowing last night. A lot of the trees were completely dusted with snow. And we're going up the shuttle road and we got stuck.
Oh, we can get through it.
I have my shovel with me. It looks like there's something in it. It's a lot of snow for a van that weighs 6,000 pounds. We didn't really get stuck, but we came to a snowbank that I tried to back the van up and kind of smash through, hoping to punch through some tracks so we could keep going, hoping that somehow there's not more snow above it. Did it a few times, and then I watch a lot of Matt's off-road recovery. I don't know about you guys, Logan's also addicted. And we didn't want to have to make a call. So when it got to the point that the front tires were spinning a bit and the van was pointing downhill, it was on snow, it was like, you know, probably shouldn't try this more. So we parked the van, kept going up the hill on our bicycles, and made it to some good trail. We actually made it to almost the top, so it was fine. Traction was pretty low today. Not only did we get rain and snow last night, but we've got a lot of that recently, so everything's very slippery, and these trails have not been getting ridden a lot because of the amount of snow blocking the shuttle road. As a result, things were slick as all get out. You could have covered the trail in banana peels and you might have had more traction. Those stock tires, those Max Grip, those are pretty darn grippy. I really appreciate those. I've been a huge fan of WTB tires and they're great and they have their place, but I do think the Max Grip Maxxis compound is a touch softer and stickier, which is nice when it's this wet out. And I'm not used to that, so I get surprised at how much traction's available. These trails have a few fun little jumps and drops and some man-made berms and stuff. So I wanna call these trails flow trails, but every now and then in between like a sculpted berm and roller and jump, you'll have like 100 feet of like somewhat natural roots and rocks. So it's like kind of a mix. It's like flow trail speed, but natural trail rawness at that speed. So I do get a little nervous here. And that's something that I wanted to mention about this bike. This bike has helped me push my comfort zone a little bit when it comes to like getting a little bit gnarly, and it kind of gives me more confidence in the rough stuff. Because it is so long and it is relatively slack, kind of felt like I was getting nervous before the bike was, and I'm not all that used to that. I've gotten hurt enough that I'm constantly thinking to myself, what could happen if I mess up on this feature? On the Mondraker, the bike felt totally solid, and I was just like, I don't know if I want to jump this, but I know this bike totally can. And I need to ride a bike like this more and get more used to that and not ride with like concern of well-being always in the forefront of my mind. Or maybe not, I don't know. I've got a kid at home. I want to make sure I'm in one piece for her. To give you guys an example of the poppy and playfulness aspect of this bike, there's this one section with a little drop off, and you kind of like do a little bunny hop over some roots, then you try to do a little hip jump kicker. Logan found it. And I think on my older bikes, my previous bikes, I would be able to get the little popper at the end pretty nicely. It's a nice little bump jump. That's like the kind of spot where the bigger Mondraker is hard for me personally to really smash through and get things done. Because I love those weird, awkward, tight tech things. The Mondraker's a lot better when it's steep or when it's fast, or even on big jumps, which are by nature fast. So I was trying to get through that section, didn't quite do it. I could probably get used to this bike over the course of a few months, but anyhow, I gotta send it back, so we're just doing what we're doing. I was trying to pull this one manual line, couldn't quite get it. The bike manual's okay, much better for me with the Shimano brakes than the stock SRAMs. That's personal opinion, but yeah, I couldn't quite get that manual, almost got it. So to kind of get revenge on that, there's one natural double here. It's my favorite natural double I've ever seen out in the woods of all time. My friend Thad actually did a lot of trail work here and mentioned that when he found it, he hardly had to do anything to make it rideable. That's the sign of a really good jump. So the Mondraker felt totally confident. I didn't even plan on hitting that jump and just kind of popped down there and found myself going quick and was like, let's just pull up. And it sailed right over the gap, no worries. And it's so composed in that stuff. It made me want to do it over and over and over. And it felt good, it felt safe. And I like that. I don't want to get hurt again, I want to feel safe. But then, why am I hitting a 20-foot jump at 30 miles an hour? Like, by nature, that's dangerous. And in the steeper sections of trail, the bike is just so much more composed than what I'm used to. I have been riding shorter bikes, this is way longer, and if you make a little mistake, it's not the end of the world. What I was concerned about is that with this bike, I would make a mistake, start going offline, and not be able to correct it and get back on course. It's kind of played out that that's not a huge problem. I'm able to get it back where I need to go. I'm kind of getting used to the way it handles, and I can kind of hop it now better than when I first started. So there is a learning curve, and I really wanted to take this bike to Whistler Bike Park, to the Coast Gravity Park. I wanted to go to, is it Sun Peaks? I don't know. There's a bunch of bike parks in BC I've never been to that I thought this thing would be great to moto up to and check out, but not happening. I've got another bike currently in transit that'll be great for that, so stay tuned if you want to see some more bike park stuff. Definitely stay tuned. By far my biggest complaint with the Super Foxy, by far, is the seat post. I really need more than 125 mils drop. My riding style is based on being very dynamic and moving around and getting low to the bike. With the 125 drop post, I can't do that, and I really struggle. Simon did not have that problem. Mike didn't so much have that problem. When Logan was riding it, he was able to get away with it more than I was, but it's still, for me, that's a real big setback, which is why I think a bike park makes so much sense for this thing. And you can manually drop the post and the frame a bit, but still, for bike park or shuttle days, it would be total home run. Here comes some Moto Brethren. I feel like I should turn this on and rev it at them. Here we go, whole crew of people. Cheers. I want to give a big thanks to Jensen USA for arranging for this loaner Mondraker Super Foxy R. The bike's been a lot of fun, and it's totally different than the rest of my quiver, and it really helped increase my confidence through some of that rough, gnarly stuff, seeing what's possible. If you guys want to check out the Mondraker Super Foxy R, I have a link to this in the description down below. It takes you over to Jensen USA. Anything you purchase from Jensen, that'll help support these videos. That's how we make all this happen. Also, special thanks to Industry 9, P&W Components, and Remedy Supply Co. Beyond that, everyone say thanks to Logan for his excellent filming and his cheery testing out the Mondraker here and there. And yeah, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the comments down below. Peace, everyone.